Hi guys, good morning and welcome to Primus Learning. This is Primus Veku here at Primus Learning, and we're excited to have you this morning join us. Today is really an exciting day for me, guys. What are we looking at today? I want us to look at OpenAI. I love OpenAI. OpenAI, and I don't know how to spell the name. The feature we want to look at is ChatGPT. I think it's ChatGPT. Let's check it out. So ChatGPT, yes, ChatGPT is a feature of OpenAI that it's a chart. It's basically a chart. You're talking with a machine learning algorithm or whatever. I don't know what they do on the back end, right? And they're able to understand you, ask them questions, they understand you, give you a response. For instance, you ask them, hey, can you define this, and they will define the thing for you in any domain, in anything, right, guys? And so we want to leverage ChatGPT in the AWS landscape. This is the scope of our video, guys. We want to use OpenAI to see how we can play around in the AWS space. So take, for instance, you're an AWS solutions architect and you want to write a script that creates some sort of a SageMaker instance that you can use to query data that is found in S3. That's a typical use case that you can have at your job. And you come to OpenAI and ChatGPT and ask it, hey, can you write me a script that creates an EC2 instance or an AWS EC2 instance or an AWS SageMaker instance in an AWS account? And I think you'll get a response, guys. So our video today, guys, is just to play around with Chat GPT and give you some of the neat things that it can do to you as you work or as you try to get into the job, to get your first job in IT. This right here is a breakthrough in so many things, a breakthrough in programming, a breakthrough in really every aspect of life in terms of machine learning algorithms. This is really, really good, guys. This is good. All right. So I want us to go to this interface right here called OpenAI and go to this link right here. So OpenAI and then Chat GPT. This is the feature we want to go to, optimizing language models for dialogue. So it uses, a model that's called language models. Uh, it's an algorithm that's built by OpenAI, and then it creates stuff. You can interact with it, answers your questions as you ask them in real time. So once you first of all have to sign up to OpenAI, right? So if you want to get to it, come to this page, do this, you know, and you open up the trial version, right? You open up, but you have to first of all sign up. I think they have the sign up page somewhere. So if you just do OpenAI.com and then go to their APIs, I think, and you want to log in or you want to sign up, right? So you have to sign up. And once you sign up normally, like you sign up for every other thing, right? So I signed up with a Primus .veku@gmail.com account, and after that, it brought me to where I'm able to test it out, right? So please sign up and then just click on try Chat GPT, and you'll be right here, guys. So this is where you want to be. You can decide to put it in light mode. You can decide to put it whatever you want it to be. And this is where you type out your things, right? You ask it questions and it will respond to you. Now, we want to test out some things, right? Remember the last time, I think one of our videos, we created EC2 instances using Terraform. We created SageMaker instances using Terraform, and we're querying some data that is found in S3. So we have some data in S3. In this video right here, we'll do exactly that. We'll create an EC2 a SageMaker instance, but we will not be the ones to write the code. We'll ask OpenAI to write the code for us. We'll play around with the code and see if we can really leverage OpenAI for our benefits as AWS Solutions Architect, as DevOps engineers, as AWS developers, and anybody working in the AWS space. So I'm limited to the AWS space for now. We can leverage this for other things, but we'll do it for AWS as at now. So to be able to get started, right, I want to create an instance, a SageMaker instance, from where we'll be writing some programs, some scripts, typical scripts that you will see in the AWS environment. People will ask you to write a script, a Python script that queries S3, right? Something that stops and starts AWS instances or EC2 instances, write a Lambda function that does this and that, do this. Those are some of the typical things we want to explore and see if OpenAI can be useful in the AWS space. And I have tried some, and it's neat, guys. So let's start it out with a question. So the first question, want to first of all write write a script. Let's do this. Let's just copy this since I wrote this already. So let's ask OpenAI to write a Terraform script for us that creates, instead of an EC2 instance, let's do that creates a Sage Maker instance in an AWS account. So write a Terraform script that creates a SageMaker instance in an AWS account. This is what we want it to do. So guys, take note that the questions that you ask OpenAI or ChatGPT have to be really accurate. The questions have to be really accurate. No mistakes. If it has an error, it will underline and you have to correct that. So write a Terraform script. So it will understand what Terraform is. It will figure out how Terraform scripts are written. It will write a script that is able to create infrastructure in AWS, guys. Just take a look. So let's hit enter here. So once you've typed it in, you hit enter and watch it do the magic, guys. So you can see it's running the algorithm behind the hood, and it's understanding your questions. Where your question is trying to understand the question, it will interpret the question, and it will tell you, here is a sample Terraform script that creates a SageMaker instance in an AWS account. So you see, if you are somebody who is familiar with AWS, you know that to be able to create an AWS instance, a SageMaker instance, you need an AWS provider. And this is it. It's provided you an AWS provider. It's giving you a region where this will be created. And it's using the Terraform resource. The Terraform resource is a resource, is a way that Terraform uses its language to create resources in AWS. And the resource is AWS SageMaker Notebook instance. It understands the resource. It understands that it has to give it a name, an internal name. It understands that it has to name the instance, and it has named it example SageMaker Notebook. It's understood that it has to give an instance type. It gives it an MLT2 medium, and it gives it a VPC ID. So it understands that it has to create this in a secure way, and it's creating it inside a VPC. And it understands that it has to create a security group. You see, it creates a lifecycle config name, and it does all of this, gives it a name, creates another resource, which is the lifecycle config, and then it gives it time so that it finishes creating one thing before it creates the other. So guys, this is a script that it uses to really create an instance for us. You can see it's doing amazing. So see the last question I asked the last time? I asked, write a Terraform script that creates an AWS SageMaker instance in an AWS account. And this is the response it did. So it doesn't even give the same thing. It creates and even creates it creates a role, because you need a role to be able to create an instance. And it assumes that role. It gives it a policy. This is the policy it gives the role, such that the role can be able to assume and create the instance. And the results SageMaker. So it's attaching this role to the instance. So let's say we use this. Let's copy this into a folder and try and see if this can really work. So let's create a folder here called Chat AI. Let's just call it Chat AI or something. Chat AI. Let's just call it Chat AI. Create another one called Open AI. So let's go to Chat AI. It's a folder. So this is Chat AI. Open it up. Remember, let's just save this. Remember, we copied the code that we created using the question we asked. So let's call it SageMaker instance.tf. So since it's a terraform file, and we'll just place it here. I said you may have some errors in it, but you have to correct the errors, right? So there's one thing that I noted here, which needs to be corrected, which is this one right here. It doesn't recognize this. So let's just remove that and save it. And that's it. So if you were in your environment, in your work environment, you could want to name this differently, right? Since your naming standards will be different. So you can just call this Primus Learning Chat, maybe Chat AI, something like that. So this instance is Primus Learning Chat AI, so that it understands the Chat AI that I'm doing. Who put this one here? Okay. So let me save and get into this. So let me open a terminal here and run it's Terraform. So run Terraform init. So want to initialize the backend that it provide the provider that this thing is using. So it's using the provider which it defined earlier. So let's use that provider. So it's creating a provider. It's created that provider, and let's do Terraform apply directly. Let's do apply and look at the results it will be creating. You see, it's creating 3 resources. Why? Because it's creating the SageMaker notebook instance. It's creating a role, a resource IAM role, and it's attaching that role to it's creating a policy and attaching that policy to the role that it's created. You see, this is the policy right here. It's assuming the policy and attaching it to the role. This is it right here. So that's what it's doing, guys. So let's accept. And you see, it's creating a SageMaker instance, guys. Just like that, we just asked the question here, and this thing is able to figure out, hey, this is the question this guy is asking me. It can even let you, correct or modify your question and save and rerun. So this is it, guys. So you can even modify it and tell it a particular region to use, right? Create, so we can say, write a Terraform script that creates an AWS SageMaker instance in US East or in US East 2 in an account, or let's say in an AWS account, in an AWS account in US East 2. You see, it recognizes US East 2. If you hit this, you go ahead and try to understand your question. Try to understand what you're asking it to do, right? And then it will come back with a response. And the response would be exactly what you were expecting it to do, guys. This is neat. This is really cool. This is good. I love it, guys. So this may be an answer to so many things that we have been struggling to get, right? So it gives you the AWS provider. So you need to ask the right question. We asked a question that was not too right here, and it gave us an answer that was not too accurate, right? this will create it, but I think it may have some errors here. This one is creating with a VPC actually and everything. I think this one is most accurate actually. So we'll use this. We can also use this one, any of the scripts that it creates for us. So it does that. Let's see if it does this one this time in US East 2 as expected. So it does this one in, where's the region? Yes, US East 2, guys. So we've corrected. It's creating it in US East 2. And then it tells you what the script will do. It tells you this script is similar to the one I provided in my previous response, but it sets the region for the AWS provider to US East 2. This will create the Amazon SageMaker instance in the US East 2 region. So it discovers that it gave a response earlier. And now it's telling you, hey, but there is a modification in this script. It will rather create this time in US East 2 and not US East 1, guys. This is neat. This thing is, it's crazy. So let's go back to our script. You see it's running, it's still running. So it's creating the instance that we want. So I have to go to the AWS environment very soon and see if it's doing its job correctly. So when it creates, we'll use that instance to run some things. We'll ask AI to create us some scripts, and we'll be able to use those scripts, to run stuff in AWS. Guys, this is amazing. I love this. So you are out there, AWS architects, AWS solutions architects, DevOps engineers, whoever who is working in the AWS space. Run these things, do your jobs, guys. Very soon you will not have to write code, you not have sleepless night writing code that is messing you up. You just need to understand the type of questions to ask OpenAI, and you'll be good to go. This is neat. All right, let's see. So it's still creating, but if we log into AWS, so let's log into our AWS account. We begin to see a SageMaker instance open with the name Primus Learning Chat AI, which is the name that we changed and gave it here, right? Primus Learning Chat AI. All right. So it's getting up there, but it's still finishing the creation here. So we can open that up and we can go into our Jupyter lab or go into open Jupyter notebook. So let's get into Jupyter notebook. And you have a notebook environment to work from, guys. This is neat. This is what we want. So I didn't create any code. I didn't do anything. And I'm here. I have a SageMaker notebook instance from where I can query stuff. I can write my machine learning work. I can do whatever I want to do, right? This is neat, guys. And it doesn't recognize only Terraform, any language, you could ask it to create with CloudFormation. You could ask it to create in Azure, in Google, in anything. So I have a running environment where I can query data that is found in S3, right? In S3 in my environment. This is neat. I just need code now to be able to query data. So currently, I have some files that are stored. You can actually create an S3 bucket with this. You can just create an S3, but we can do it right away. But I'll not do that to make this video a little bit short, right? So let's go to S3. I have some buckets. There's some data inside. I want us to kind of see if we can query that data in real time using OpenAI. So we have a bucket here named, what's that bucket? Primus Learning Demo Bucket. We have this bucket and there's some data inside. These are some files, right? We want to query some of these files. All right, so the bucket name is this. And we can go back to OpenAI and ask it a question. OpenAI. Let's go back to OpenAI and ask a question. Hey, man, write a Python script that creates, or let's say that let's see. That creates demo data, that creates demo Well, let's use the data that's already there. That queries CSV data in AWS S3. AWS S3. I think this question can work, guys. What do you think? We can modify the question as we see the responses and as we run it and see what it does. So we are running it. We are executing the question. We are just asking OpenAI to tell us, or ChatGPT to tell us, hey, write us a query, write us a simple, we need a query or a Python script that can query data from S3, right? So for instance, your boss has asked you, hey, can you figure out a query that gets us some data from S3? The data is in CSV format. And you hit enter here. I think we've asked it a lot of questions. And so when it does that, you just refresh, and then run again. So we've refreshed and we're running, asking that same question. So you have to note that we don't have a subscription with them. This is not paid, this is free. So we're using the free option. So it's discovered the question and it's telling you that to query CSV data in AWS S3, you can use the Boto3 library to connect to the S3 service. I didn't mention the Boto3 library, guys, and it's discovered that you need Boto3. It discovered that you need Boto3, which is the Python SDK that is used really well in AWS. And this is exactly what it's doing. It's told you, hey, to be able to do this, you need the Boto3 library to perform this activity. Here's an example of how you can do it. It's an example that it's giving you. You can modify it to fit your needs, right? To meet whatever needs that you want. And it's telling you that this code will download the CSV file from the S3 bucket, read it into a pandas data frame, and then use the data frame's built-in query function to filter the data. You can then modify the query as needed to get the data you want. Note that this code assumes that you have the necessary AWS credentials set up either as environment variables or in a configuration file. So it gives you all that and gives you even AWS documentations that you can use. So guys, you remember we just ran and brought up an instance and a SageMaker instance from where we can work, right? So the only thing you need to change here, guys, will be pass your data set, or pass your bucket name, pass your data set. You see what it's doing? Pass your data, your thing, pass your data set. All right. So let's go into S3. I think it will download the data and then get it from wherever it's getting it. Let's see what kind of query it's written here. I don't know. Let's figure this out. So let's go to our bucket, get the bucket name. So we're getting a bucket name, put the bucket name, data.csv, the data, let's get the data in the bucket. So we had some files here in CSV format. You can get one of these files in CSV format and put it here. So this is it wants to store it wants to download the file and store it under TMP or temp and data.csv and open the file and read the content into a pandas data frame. So it wants to open that file and read it here. So we can just store the data this way, right? We don't need to store it in temp. We can just store it that way and then open the data like this. So it wants to store this thing in memory and open it and read. Query result df. So it wants to query the values in a data frame. So let's try this out and see what it gives us. Gives us an error. We'll see. Let's see if it even downloads the data. So it gives an error here. And an error occurred while calling the head object operation. So this is an error you need to figure out quickly what it means, right? Which is quite simple than you writing a script. So let's even go here and check if it downloaded. No, it's just showing that this is running. So if it does that, you can give it, how can you ask it to help you? How can you ask it to help you? So you can copy this error right here and go back to OpenAI. If you don't know what it's doing, go back to OpenAI. You see what I'm doing? Go back to OpenAI. Let's put this here and go back and copy the question. Go back up here, copy the question, and bring it down, paste it. Let's paste the question here, guys. And then tell it without the error, this. So you're telling OpenAI you've had an error, guys, but you don't want that error. Can you do this and then run it? Let's see what happens. It will tell. I'm sure. I'm very convinced it will tell you some things. I love this guy. To query CSV data in AWS without getting the forbidden error, you need to make sure that you have the necessary permissions to the S3 bucket and blah, blah, blah. So it tells you the same thing up there. And then it provides a head. Now, I think it's done that. And then it does all the crazy things. And then it gives you the response code, brings you out. So if you don't have permissions, it's asking you to give that exception, right? To tell you, if you don't have permissions, it will tell you don't have permissions to access this bucket and file. Oh, this is neat, man. This is neat. All right, so let's get that query again and see what it does. And then it tells you about the error that you had. This code uses the head object method of the S3 client to check if the current user has permissions to access the bucket and file. If the user doesn't have permission, the code will exit with an error message. If the user does have permission, the code will proceed to download the file and query it as before. So let's do that and see what happens. So we want to replace. You can run below just to keep the errors consistent, and give the file name again. We can copy the file name from up here. Or the bucket name is this. So if you are somebody who's worked in the AWS environment, you should understand that this code looks exactly like what you would want, right? But you need to modify it just a little bit, just a little tiny bit. And you can even ask it to help you modify it depending on the errors that you get, guys. This is crazy, man. All right, so you have this, and then you have it's added this error part, right? Where you have to raise that information. You have to inform you if you have an error or not, and if you do have an error, he'll tell you. If you don't have the error, he will still throw the error with maybe a different. You don't have permissions to access this bucket, so it tells us you don't have permissions to access this bucket. Although I think the role here. Oh, so you see, the rule that it's using, that this SageMaker instance is using, doesn't have permissions to do what? To query S3. Now you can modify. Remember, we ran a query to get this code right here. You can modify the access level here to be able to query all buckets in S3, and it will do that for you. So to be able to do that, let's go back to OpenAI to where we ran the query for this one, and tell it, let's modify this thing. Let's ask it. Let's ask it to get S3 full access. SageMaker instant. Why is this error coming up? I think, okay, there's a space in between. All right. So let's ask it to grant S3 full access to the SageMaker execution role, SageMaker role for this instance. I think you understand us. Let's see if you understand us. So want to you don't want to do any work. You want this thing to do your work for you, guys. So let's ask it to give us the permissions. We already know exactly why that query is failing, right? And you can ask it to give you permissions. Give me the permissions that I want. You can modify the permissions. Of course, you can modify them by yourself, but you can really let it do the work for you, right? You can let it do the work for you. So it says up here, let's see what it says. Let's allow it do the work and then we'll complete and see what it does. Alternatively, it can use a default VPC. So it wants to create a VPC and it can use a default VPC as well. You see, it's granting S3 full access. It's allowing for every bucket. I love this. I love this, man. So that's what it's doing there. Granting that full access, doing all the work. So it's telling it to update, do every, oh my goodness, these guys. All right, so let's go back to, so what we can actually do here is simply just modify the script, right? Instead of having a new script, you can just, as I told you, you can modify this one using this. So you just come in here and tell it, what was the thing we did down there? We added something. So grant, this is all we added, right? You can just modify this one rather than writing a new thing. You can just modify that and then fix this thing and save. It just goes crazy, man. It just gives you everything. Goodness. So let's see what it does. It's the same thing. So it goes, you see what it's doing? It's now writing the S3 policy. I love you, man. It's writing the S3 policy, guys. So this is really good. This is neat. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It attaches it. So once we bring this back to the, I think it's completed. So let's see if we can copy this over. Does it let us copy? Let's go up, scroll up a little bit and see if we can copy from here. It didn't. Okay, we can copy from here. All right. So remember the thing we changed the last time? We changed something. So let me just replace this one and see. Hope it doesn't. Oh, it seems it changed something. Looks like it changed something. We want to create a new instance, which is not what we want. Yeah, I want to change something. So we can just modify the role. It wants to change a whole lot of things. So let's modify the roles. You can, from the initial start, you have to make sure the role has access, right? Yeah. So from the on start, you have to make sure the role has access. So to modify the role for this instance, let's see the instance, the role, the previous role was this. Let me go back. So the previous role was It's just I am SageMaker role. This is the role. So go to that role and go to that policy and modify it. So let's go to this role in AWS, modify it, make sure it has access, and then we can run it. I love this thing. I love this thing. I love this thing. I love OpenAI, guys. Playing around with it, we are not doing. This is not a fixed video. This is not a video prepared, guys. We're just playing around with it. So feel free to follow us. Feel free to play around with it and let us know your comments. Let us know what you think about this video. So it granted Amazon full access, right, to this role. So we can grant, we can add permissions and just attach S3 full access. Full S3 full. Let's see if we get S3 full access. S3. Let's just type S3. S3 full access. S3 full access. Yep, this one. Let's attach it to that role. And it's been attached. So let's go back and try to run again and see if we still have that error, which is telling us we don't have permissions. Now we don't see the permissions error. It should be, if we have an error, it should be something else. So it's figuring out its thing. You see it's still running. Yeah, we have a different error. Key error column name. So it doesn't see column name. So it's figured out in that query, it doesn't see column name. So what you could do, what you could do would be to pass the data, to pass the query that you want it to run, right? You have to pass the query that you want it to run. So it doesn't see query result, df, column name, value. The value, it doesn't see the value of the column name. So let's do this. Let's get that's still correcting the AI, correcting it, telling it to do what you want it to do. So it actually brings down the data. You see, it brings down the data. And this is the expected data, hopefully. Let's see what it brings down. But it was not able to get to complete its work. Yep. So it actually gets you the data, guys, but it didn't complete its work because it didn't really bring, it brought the data in and then it failed. It didn't get this column name, key column name. It wasn't able to get the key column, the column name part. So the above exception was the direct cause of the following. Didn't get that. So the value column name, because it didn't find column name in there. So let's see one of these. Let's just do transaction or transaction date, for instance. Let's see what it does. And it goes and brings the data to you. You see, so we passed the name, the column name, and it brought us what we were expecting. So if you go back here and you see the transaction date, it brings you invoice, ID, payment method, and everything. So it brings you all of this information up here because we pass the transaction date. So if you pass something like February 2, let's see what it would do. You bring the value, okay, it gets an error because that's not, it doesn't find that key name. February 2. So let's do this. Let's bring in payment method because that's a column. Because it's supposed to be bringing payment method. Is it? payment method or it's small? No, it's small m. It has to be, the syntax has to, okay, so it still gets just the columns. It gets just the columns. So you have to modify your data to get the data itself. So what you can do actually, what I wanted to say earlier is you could pass the query that you want it to get. You could pass the direct query and tell it, hey, this is the query that you want it to select. Excuse me. In your in your search thing, you could pass it the query you want it to get, right? So you say, write a Python script that queries CSV data in AWS S3 without the error code this. The query is, and then you put it in commas like this, in inverted commas, open and close, and then save. Let's see what it does. If it's able to, maybe it will time out. Don't know. Let's just see what it does. So we're just playing around with it, guys. It's not like this is a serious session where we're just playing around to see if this thing can help you at work, right? So after this, we'll just query again a few things. Okay, so it's rewriting the query. Let's see what it does, what it changes. So it's using the S3 client to download the data and save it, just as it downloaded it. Remember, it downloaded the file from S3. Save it, and then this is the query it's writing. Set the start and end date for the query. And then the query result should be this, transaction date equals to this. So it's querying the transaction date exactly for this query. So now let's see. Since let's just copy the code from here. Since, and then it's modified it and it's telling you to query CSV data in AWS without encountering the forbidden blah blah error that we gave it. Make sure that you have the necessary permissions to access the S3 bucket and the file you want to query. This can typically be done by attaching an appropriate IAM policy to your IAM user or role. So we did that. And then it's telling us again down here, this code will download the CSV file from the S3 bucket, read it into a pandas data frame, and then use the data frame's built-in query function to filter the data based on the specified start and end date. So you remember we provided a specific query for it. And then it tells you again, note that this code assumes that you have the necessary credentials or permissions to access the thing that you want to access. Now, let's put this again down here and give it the bucket name, which is this name right here. So we give it the bucket name. And then let's give it the data that we want it to query from. This is the data. And then let's fix. We've given it the data. Let's fix this. It will override whatever is currently there. Let's override whatever is currently on there. And then this is the start date and end date of what we want to query. So let's run this and see what it does. So it brings back an error. And it says the transaction, it doesn't see the transaction date. So we didn't put it correctly. It doesn't put the query has transaction date not written correctly somewhere. So transaction date, it doesn't see transaction date. It sees there is a transaction date and not the way it's written it. So you can modify that and put it correctly. Transaction date and transaction date. So it didn't see transaction date the way this thing wrote it, right? Start date, end date, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's run that. And it goes and queries it and brings in this result right here. This result isn't accurate the way we want it. but it brings it out. So it actually queries, goes, downloads the data, so you can begin to fix your query going forward, right? So it's actually doing a lot of work for you guys. You will not have anything like this. It will not. What else? You have to sit down your bots, write this thing out, and get it to work, right? Of course, if you're in the AWS space, so you have to figure out why it's not bringing in and figure out how to get your data correctly. So this thing is doing magic. So those are some of the things I wanted us to look at. One more thing we can quickly look at, guys, is maybe you want to write a Lambda function that stops and starts SageMaker instances. Let's try that. Let's write a Lambda function. Yeah, write a Lambda function that starts and stops let's just say that stops for now, stops SageMaker instance in US. All right, so we can run that and see if it recognizes this. So this is Lambda. This is far away from what we were doing above, right? This is completely different from what we did. This is a Lambda function. Let's see what it does. If it will be able to stop a SageMaker instance in AWS using a Lambda function, you will need to use the Boto3 library to connect to the SageMaker service and perform the necessary operations. Okay. So it defines a context. It's writing a function. It defines the function context. It defines the Lambda headers, and which of course has an event and a context. You see it up there, and then the instance name, and that's it. Let's try if this could work. So if you go to AWS, let's copy the code. It will give you some information again down there and blah blah blah. So let's go to Lambda. You see, your life becomes as easy as it gets. Even if you didn't know how to write Lambda, you just go to Lambda now and create your Lambda function and put that in, change the name to the instance name, and you're ready to go. So let's try that and see if it will stop our instance. Go to functions. Okay, let's create a function. Let's call the function chat AI. And let's call it a Python function, because this is a Python thing. Python function. Let's use that. Let's use, let's use an execution role. Now let's just let everything be. And we'll create a function. You could ask it to use Terraform to create a function for you. So you will not even need to do this. You could ask Terraform to create a function for you. And you could ask it to use Terraform to create a function for you. Then you use that function to do this. So this is really cool, guys. All right, you just replace this code with what you have. I hope it has this thing is able to import Boto3, except we may need to write a layer out and bring it in here with that. All right, so let's just give it chat test. All right, and leave everything as is. Oh, we didn't give a name, our SageMaker instance name. So the name, what was our instance name? Remember, we had an instance name somewhere. Our instance name was on our code. So we gave it Primus Learning Chat AI. There's an instance name. That's it. All right, so let's go back to our Lambda function and give it a name. Try this out, maybe not. Did we save? Yeah, let's deploy again because we just made a change. Maybe. Or let's deploy the last one. We made a change to our instance. And it was successful, guys. Let's try. Okay. Access denied. When calling the stop instance operation, the user does not have access. Now you see it's an access thing. So you have to go back to that user and give it access. So let's see the user it's talking about. The user, the role, this role is not authorized to perform stop instance on that instance because we didn't give it access, right? So you can go to IAM, and give that role access to stop and start instances in SageMaker. So what you can do is you can give it SageMaker we can just quickly give. I think is this the role? Yeah, this is the role. So what we can do with this role is add permissions because it has just this basic thing. Let's give it SageMaker full access or execution. I think Amazon SageMaker execution role, it will work, I think. Let's see. Let's give it. Did it have that before? Maybe that's what it had. I don't know. Let's see what that role had. No, it had that role. Let's try it out again. Let's go back to Lambda. Or let's just add full permission since we are already here. We don't want to go back and come back, guys. Sorry about that. So SageMaker. Let's give SageMaker full so that we don't come back. It's just so we can be quick. All right, let's give it full, attach, and go back and see if we just want to see if our Lambda function is working as expected, if it's able to stop that instance. Where's the function? It's chat AI. And then let's execute. Let's see. Let's test it out. The response is null. It looks like it actually did its work earlier. Let's see. Error when calling the stop instance operation. So it still has the stop instance. So let's see if that instance is running. Yeah, this instance is still running. Why should it still have this try again? An error when calling the stop instance operation status, not status stopping. Hold on. Okay. Status stopping. Not. I'm not seeing the end of that error there. I hate Lambda because of this thing. You have to go and not in service. Unable to. So it was stopping already. I'm like, why is it not saying say it was stopping already? The instance was stopping. So if we go to the instance, if we go to from Lambda, so this Lambda function is doing its work. Let's go back to SageMaker. I think it should have been stopping the instance. We were just not seeing it earlier. Let's see. And go back to instances. And it stopped, guys. Yay! So the Lambda function worked as expected. The Lambda function worked as expected. So guys, this is really neat. I still need to explore this thing a little bit more and see what it's doing. You know, we're using this session as a kind of open session, just playing around and look at what this tool can do. But trust me, it really can do a lot of things for us, right? In the AWS space or as solutions architect, as cloud engineers. in IT in general. Let's see if it can even write a program. I don't know. Write an HTML. Why is it on the line? HTML5 program that creates a one-page web demo website. I don't know. Let's see what it tells us. An error occurred. If this issue persists, please. Okay, so let's just copy this out. I'm sure it is asking us. Maybe our session has expired. Okay, it brings us back. Let's try again. Let's see what it does, guys. Maybe it will tell us this is beyond my scope. But I love this. I love playing around with it. Go, guys. Sure, here's a simple HTML5 program that creates a one-page demo website. And that's it. It gives you a one-page demo website. And you can run this and get your website, guys. Let's see how beautiful it wants to make it look. It's giving you some crazy data. Lorem ipsum dolo sit amet, consectetur a dispicing elit, nulla tristique diam vel nisi condimentum id volutspat nisi dictum. Metenas eis mod velit ligula in dictum sen dictum et, curabitur convalis tintidunt leo eget consecat. In hac habitase platea dictums, in condimentum interdum. So I learned a little bit of Latin, guys, in the seminary. So, but I'm able to play around with that, interpret and read stuff. All right, so let's see what it's doing. It's creating a page, a demo page, just have some things. Let's see what it can do for you. And you just replace this text with whatever you have. This is magic right here. All right. So it's created an HTML page for us. Let's copy the code. Let's scroll up a little bit and copy. And let's just paste it here. Let's create a file. Create a file called test.html and paste this inside and save. Okay. Let's open with what does it give us? Anyway, we can open from here. Oh, no problem. We can open this page from here and see what it gives us. Yay! This is the page it gives you, right? With that text we're reading. Welcome to the demo website. And this is it. It gives you the sections. It gives you everything, guys. So this thing right here is magic. You can really do a lot of things with this thing. I want us to stop this video here. I just wanted us to play around with this, guys. Make use of it. Watch it. Give us the comments. Leave us your comments, your thoughts on ChatGPT. Have you been using it? How do you see it? Let us know what you think, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.